Everyone, and welcome to the second edition of the ABSL Bosnia and Herzegovina Business Service Leaders Talk. It is our pleasure to welcome you today on the last day of June. We know holiday season is approaching, so we decided to do our before holiday event on the 30th of June regarding skills. As we introduced on our first Leaders Talk, we'll have portal events that will be bits and pieces of what you can expect of our big conference coming up in November this year. We hope with measures being changed also on site to have the opportunity to share knowledge, network, and meet you all there. As we promised the first time, actually last time when we introduced the trends of the industry, we'll be discussing skills as well as advocacy. Today, our event is all about skills. And just a short reminder before I give the word to our Vice President, Mr. Kadić, bear in mind that this event is recorded for internal ABSL purposes and that your cameras and microphones stay muted till the panel discussion. I would like to welcome also our guests today, which will be introduced by our Vice President, Benjamin Kadić. So, Benjamin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Adi. Hello, everyone, and good morning. I know this is the last day of June, and most probably the last day for some of you will be actively working in, most probably in some capacity that we are all expecting. My task today is just to give you kind of a short intro, light intro regarding the ABSL. For the ones who are not familiar with the ABSL work and the accomplishment managed so far, and then I will introduce my guest speakers and the topics in terms of scaling and especially kind of workforce planning opportunities in this region, not only in Bosnia and Herzegovina, then regional project also. Let me just pass through a couple of slides regarding the ABSL for the ones who are not familiar with the ABSL. As Adi already mentioned, the agenda is kind of straightforward regarding using the microphone and the cameras. And then during the panel talk, we will definitely have the opportunity to discuss with some of the attendees regarding the question that they might have for the speakers. ABSL International is an organization which aims to inspire a community of companies in sector, where mostly promotes BPO, ITO, and other outsourcing initiatives. Started in Poland 10 years ago and now active in a couple of locations, while dominantly leading from Poland, Czech Republic, Romania, Switzerland, and from recently Latvia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Albania. ABSL in Bosnia was kind of structured around two coordinating bodies. Initial one is the management board, consisted of the founders and the managers of ABSL. Most probably you are familiar with the faces that are mentioned here, but I'm really glad to present Dr. Omer Softić today as one of the panel speakers. Was the one who started this initiative with us and greatly impacted in our promotion so far. Besides the management board, we have strategic board who is also helping us on local capacity to coordinate ABSL activities. And for this opportunity, I would like to thank everyone who are, quite involved in all the advocacy, promotional activities that are done through ABSL, because as you might know, and you probably are familiar with, they are, running successful companies on their own in Bosnia, in the region, and this contribution for ABSL is highly appreciated. We have at this moment 50 plus members in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and this number is growing, which is really pushing us forward to present this initiative and these operations and this activities on the market with greater support, which is really interesting fact, having in mind that 5 years ago nobody was mentioning BPO or anything similar in this capacity. So we are standing to our ABSL vision, and we are promoting and through our membership and through the market. But the main thing is that we are tending to accomplish put the BPO sector as the growing sector in 2025, and then to build the ABSL Western Balkans as a hub for business services, catalyzing the industry growth. We can already notice some of the changes due to the fact of COVID is in some ways are even helping us to achieve these goals, but we'll comment on that also during the panel. ABSL has a couple of key objectives. One of them is definitely sustainability and growth. The second one is the industry recognition, and the third one is added value for the members. I will not go in details regarding every segment of it, but I would just say for the ones who are not familiar that industry recognition is something that we are doing through business services community, cooperations with universities, strong public relations and cooperation with authorities, which is most frequent in the recent months. While regarding the added value, and this is the attracting factor for all the candidate member companies who are joining us, we are tending to kind of share the knowledge through the events such as this. We try to share the industry insight through the ABSL report, which will be produced this year once again. And then we definitely want to have this industry influence through all the advocacy and lobbying activities that we are doing so far. Some of you or most of you are already familiar with the main project and main product that ABSL is producing on an annual basis, and this is the ABSL annual report, first produced during the challenging year 2020. Nobody was expecting that we will do this in such a year, but we managed to accomplish this major milestone for ABSL, and now we have a first ever published document about business services and the capacity of this location for such ever in Bosnia. So this is something that should be a legacy and starting point for ABSL and the business service in this region. I will just communicate a couple of facts through the report that were noticed in the past one, and most probably will be upgraded in this one. And yes, the sector has approximately 14,000 people now active in the market, and we are forecasting that it should grow up to 18,000 people by the end of 2022. State of the sector is already active, and as you can notice, the main services provided through this location are definitely leading through customer service and the software development support, which is done here. But I would say that these numbers are even growing, especially in IT help desk and supply chain and HR, which is recently seeing some factors of growth. Why we are communicating business-friendly Bosnia and Herzegovina? This is our main goal, to publish this information as much as we can, especially towards international stakeholders, organizations, and potential investors, just to highlight. And sometimes we should do this by ourselves because we tend to forget how attractive we are in comparison with other countries, which are more successful than we are in terms of BPO promotion. But we tend to highlight these facts, especially towards the investors, to understand what are the potentials of this location. I would just use this opportunity to kind of highlight the indicators of business sectors in 2020 in Bosnia, where we noticed that among our member companies, we had 25% revenue growth, which is astonishing result, having in mind that last year was really challenging for most of the businesses across the world. Employment growth up to 30%, which is also an indicator that COVID is even moving towards the promotion of business services across the globe, and tax contribution, which is a major fact that we are trying to introduce to stakeholders coming from institutions, having in mind that they are not fully familiar what is the impact of this industry and what is the potential, as we noticed in other locations such as Czech Republic and Poland. So for today, I have the opportunity to introduce my guests. I can see that they are already here. But just let me give you some introduction regarding the topic. So the last decade brought an avalanche of changes in business ecosystem, and I think we can all agree on that. Initially noticing the rise of artificial intelligence, the growth of the gig economy, the increased push towards greater diversity, and the most recently global pandemic that was already in reality of millions and redefined where and how the work gets done. The year 2000 down in history as one of the most difficult years of human life. But as we are taught, where come challenges, there come opportunities. COVID-19 has made a huge impact on the way we live and work. And it's the year 2021. We are still in the middle of the pandemic, and we have to adapt the post-COVID world. Due to this, many businesses have adopted new ways of management, communication, and getting work done. The most challenging part was faced by the HR professionals, as I can notice through my experience, as almost every single factor of HRM was drastically changed. Every task was shifted to remote working, online team performance, even online team buildings and virtual meeting became part of our work life. Though some trends have been ongoing for a while and now have simply accelerated by the years of development, many are inevitable result of drastic changes that organizations had to go through and in some cases are still facing. That begs the question, what's in store for the future of the industry? I was constructing this panel to look ahead for a glimpse of which major trends will continue to drive the transformation and which new trends are emerging to shape the workforce planning and scaling practices. I'm glad to introduce some of my guests as to the second ABSL expert talk, and I will start definitely with Dr. Omer Softić from Kadić. And I will appreciate if Dr. Omer can turn on his camera, such as Mr. Muhamed, Semić, and Mr. Žolt Beneš, so you can see them. Okay, so I will just give a brief introduction regarding the Mr. Softić experience, who is an accomplished finance professional with almost 20 years in managing global shared service centers in global finance transformation. He has renewed knowledge of developing strategy for global business services, internal controls, site selections, facility setup, global process design, robotic process automation, BPO management, and transformational project management across America, Asia, and Europe. I have to highlight his strong educational credentials include Doctor of Business Administration, specializing in efficiency of shared services. And I would say this is the way that we met, and this is the way that we had opportunity to cooperate together, because we were amazed that we have such a influential person coming from Bosnia and working across the globe to join us in ABSL in the early stages. So, Mr. Omer, if you can just take a couple of minutes introducing yourself, if this is not enough that I already mentioned.
Well, thank you, Benjamin. I think you said far too much about me than I can remember. So, guys, if he said it, it's probably somewhere out there, and I guess I've done it. So, in short, right, I've been all around the world. As you know, I left Bosnia as a refugee, moved to Germany, from Germany to Australia. And then in Australia, I finished my education and joined Caterpillar. That's when I became what I call professional refugee. You still move the country, right? But this time more on your own terms. And in doing so, I was very fortunate to work for such a great company that gave me opportunity to try new things. I think I've done quite a lot of, I would say, exploratory work in my career. Never really getting into a job that I knew, but preparing myself for something that I was willing to learn about. And the reason why I'm saying this is I think that topics today are very relevant to what's coming. Skills that you possess, that you feel comfortable about, I would say will become redundant within a couple of years. So brace yourself for surprise and I would say a bit of an uphill battle to learn new skills as we move forward. I've been a couple of times in Europe and back. I came back in 2009 and recognized that not much has changed. So went back to Asia, worked in Manila for a while. Very interesting country. And I think this is where I like to perhaps just highlight some of the facts that major European companies like Lufthansa, Deutsche Bank, Bayer are going all the way to Manila for pretty much the same reason that everyone does, which is skill set, probably cost of getting the job done, and ability to, I would say, scale very quickly. I believe that today we have that available in Bosnia. And if we are successful in convincing our partners across the globe that we can do this as effectively, as efficiently as what some of the Asian countries can do, and I would say we have such a great opportunity to make everybody work in Bosnia. Of course, that's if there are people who are willing to work still there. I'm kidding.
No worries, no worries. Thank you, Mr. Softić. So we will now introduce our second panelist. Mr. Žolt Beneš has over 12 years of management experience in customer services, and during the first 10 years, he built a career in operation, focusing on customer experience and continuous performance improvement. Operationally, he was responsible for managing 300 plus projects and developing a high-quality performance model, ensuring the stability of growth of Croatian operation. I had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Beneš during the market research, which was done for Bosnia and Herzegovina, and now he's one of the leaders for coordinating 2 sites in Bosnia, and most probably planning to open a 3rd one. So, Mr. Beneš, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Benjamin. Well, you already kind of built in the introduction of I'd say a job experience. So not focus on that, but yes, I was kind of part mostly through the operation in my career, and basically building client relation, building the teams, and I can easily say that there are, as Omer mentioned, it's totally different. I would say like 14, 15 years ago when I started, at this moment it's totally different. To manage, to maintain, to basically implement some things, it's totally changed. And I believed that the COVID situation, this work at home shift, made an acceleration on these changes, and believe that we are kind of getting quickly. So I think that at these moments, it's important to have this, I would say, change management. So basically that people adapt to the new things, to work at home. And also the same thing is not only for companies, it's also for basic employees, because for them, it's also, for the majority of them, it was a shock. So basically now they need to go, everything is digital. So from the home, they need to apply for a job. They need to be go through the meetings, onboarding. So it's kind of, I believe, big shift. I hope, actually, I'm pretty sure that it will be managed, that will transfer to the office back, because that's, I think, especially in our region, is really important to have this kind of a personal touch. So you go to the office, meet, sit on the meeting, go to face. It's slightly different with the digital, so not everyone is used to it. But I think it will also stay. So we'll have kind of a hybrid model where we have kind of a work at home. And also I think it's big plus because it's not only that you have kind of office in, let's say, one area, and then you attract people around 30, 40 kilometers. And I believe this kind of a COVID and work at home enabled the ways that you can basically attract people from anywhere. So you can just, of course, if you're within kind of a legal entity, but still you can easily manage and attract through all the country. And I think this opened a lot of potential, and it's now just kind of a way to utilize these things. Still, as I said, from the operational perspective, I think it's challenging. So we need to adapt, as you mentioned. HR needs to adapt, recruitment needs to adapt, IT, and basically all the built-in structures and teams need to adapt. But I think this is something that is kind of developing really quickly. And I think during COVID, we've seen the acceleration and development of a lot of technical solutions, new ways of working, change in the mindset. I also think that now we need to bring the I would say the stakeholders on the other side, like in the government. So basically they notice this. So basically they work on the improvement of infrastructure, of the ways how they can basically support, is it tax or other ways. I think this is kind of a next step that we need to achieve.
Thank you, Mr. Beneš, and thank you once again joining us after the vacation, fresh after the vacation. I know this is a major thing. Thank you so much. So
thank you very much.
Besides Mr. Beneš, we have Mr. Semić. He is one of the senior managers in Deloitte with more than 10 years of experience in consulting, financial services, and ICT industry. His areas of expertise span from risk management, regulatory compliance, information, cybersecurity, sustainability to management consulting. In addition, Muhamed's role is the head of consulting and risk advisory Bosnia and Herzegovina when he runs his team. Mr. Semić, I would appreciate if you can just introduce yourself briefly.
Thank you, Benjamin. Thank you, ABSL, for the invitation. Really happy to be here with you today and to share and to discuss some of the experiences and ideas with this distinguished panelist. I would say managing in-house talent always a very hot topic, always a very actual one. But I would strongly agree with Žolt, basically that now in this COVID or post-COVID time, even more important, because some of the new challenges have come up to the surface that we should have in mind in order to properly manage talent, but in the same time for a market such as Bosnia and Herzegovina or if we say Western Balkans as a whole, some new opportunities also are on the table. So if we do a proper steps now, I believe that there is plenty of good business opportunities that we can share. Generally, you've said basically the key things about background. I would just say that kind of I started and studied in ING engineering. Now I'm in consulting business and basically in companies as ours where we hire only top performers managing what talent is kind of everyday work. So as said at the beginning, happy to share my experiences, but also to hear some new, and of course would invite everyone what today on a session for what questions and what comments.
Super, thank you, Mr. Semić. So let's get back to Mr. Softić. So until recently, you were Senior Director of Global Service Finance in Asia Pacific region with Johnson & Johnson, delivering services to 60 business units with combined revenues 15 billion. I had to mention that because the question is going in this direction. How did you manage to translate the business strategy into workforce planning strategy? I can imagine that your business stakeholders had expectations in capacity of this revenue in this wide region of coverage, but how did you manage this transformation between the business and the workforce planning strategy?
It's an excellent question, Benjamin. First of all, I apologize. I'm a little bit rude, and still too early for me. So this is my second coffee I just made now. Good morning and dobro jutro svima mojim Bosancima i Hercegovcima. I think the fact that we are speaking in English says a lot about who we are and what kind of talent we have over here. I know my English is not the best, but certainly I'm impressed with what I hear out there. First of all, workforce planning, it's a fancy word that I think companies tend to say they have it. Reality is very different, right? So I worked for, as you said, Johnson & Johnson. It's a largest medical company, one of the largest around the world, and I'm sure you heard about it, the baby powders and recently not so successful Johnson & Johnson vaccines, but also for a few other companies. I like to mention maybe in my example, Regis. It changed its name, and I think we have one of the managing director in Austria and Germany is our Alisa from Bosnia as well. What I do recognize is that there are attempts to come up with a workforce needs for the future, and I think where this is more obvious is really in the business itself. So, you know, the reality on the ground is, as we introducing new product to the market, we tend to start planning ahead on what is the skill set that we need out there and start building that skill set. It's generally last minute, and I think this is where companies like yours, Benjamin, on the executive search and hiring come into play is really reacting late and then getting in a situation where we need to engage external resources to build this. Now, maybe I have to give credits to Johnson & Johnson Shared Services, that they have global shared services in Manila, where they have truly built internal expertise to start actually doing the workforce planning in advance. Not so much in the back office. So if we take finance and accounting as an example, or HR, I think that's kind of still developing, and we are just in the infancy of building that plan ahead. But, you know, let me now try to answer your question. I think one of the, I would say, effective workforce planning is really leaders' ability to understand organizational goals and objectives and where we are heading. What is the next big thing that we're planning to introduce out there, and how do we want to change the world? And together, building a case for change and building a case for investment in people, which, you know, believe it or not, in my view, is something that we do here. People are greatest asset, but not many companies live up to it. Right. So I think it's really that leaders' ability to project the future and preparing for it. I think we'll talk a little bit more into details about the challenges that we face. But if I just kind of can share one little thing, which I very often reference in my discussions with leadership. While I was managing finance and accounting in Asia Pacific, right, I found that my business partners were super frustrated. And I'm not going to mention the company, but you know, I went in front of them, showed them the P&L, balance sheet, everything clean, looks good. We're doing our job. We're even overachieving our results, but the frustration with finance and accounting was still there. So instead of taking that P&L, I took a cup of coffee and invited myself in this business leader office and say, so what is your problem with me? Right? Tell me, why are you frustrated? I said, listen, it's not you guys. It's the fact that we have a customer who is acting on our behalf, and we're supposed to pay them back the money they spent on their trips. Mm-hmm. What happened is we need 6 months to pay, and you are in finance accounting, figure it out. So I said, my God, that's a problem, right? If I was on the other end waiting 6 months for my air ticket to hotel, I would be fuming. And the fact is that these guys decided not to talk on our behalf, not to represent us. This is a huge business impact. Mm-hmm. So what do? Do I break the rules and you know, just pay the guy out of my pocket to get them off my back? The answer is no. So and I'll give you an example why. This was a strategically important operation, let's say, for that company. So without really having that full picture of how should I act, I picked up finance and accounting guy, and just told him, go and figure it out. Find out what to do. Fortunately, this was a very smart guy who actually collected all the input from various folks. And what they figured out is really that policies, processes, and everything else was super complex, not because there is no available technology, but it's just because we were living in the, I don't know, dinosaur age. We never updated our systems. We upgraded to SAPs, we upgraded to this and that, but not to the business critical processes. So the little kid pulled a few people around and I don't know, went to university, and they came up with something which is very simple. A phone. Take a picture of your expense books, send it over to I don't know, workflow, and it gets figured out in less than 6 days, from 6 months to 6 days. Unfortunately, our policy was not to pay unless 30 days expired from the day. So not so good for the customer, but certainly it was something that I think reflected that even in accounting and finance, it's not necessarily the finance and accounting skills that we need to worry. It's our ability to resolve issues and problems for the business. And it's something that I generally say to my people, if you want to get a promotion, right? It's not your job. Nobody cares about your job. You do your job because you have to do, that's what you paid for. But if you want to get a promotion, you need to do everything else. Mm-hmm. And generally this involves skill set that is not part of your core role. So I know it was a long answer, Benjamin, but I hope by giving you practical examples of how a strategically important initiative helped me to actually create a name for me in that region, but for the finance and organization. And we were no longer seen as the back office guys who are crunching the numbers. Mm-hmm. We were seen as the solution provider for the business need. And it was no longer need for me to knock on the door. People will call us because they knew we'll come with a good response.
Thank you, Mr. Softić. That is really interesting, and kind of connecting this business strategy, which in most ways are predicted that stays in the office of the stakeholders. And thank you for kind of recognizing the vision introduced to your past experience. So let's go to Mr. Beneš. So I would definitely like to discuss with you one fact that I noticed in the Workforce Intelligence report, where 61% of respondents agree or strongly agree that it's important to find a meaning in their work beyond the contribution made to their employer. And since you are one of the leaders of the BPO operations in the region, I would definitely like to understand, in your capacity, how can employer brand connect to meaning of work, especially if you are outsourcing or producing outsourced services, where it's quite challenging to kind of connect the meaning of work of the employer who potentially works directly for the end client. So what did you notice in your past experience? How can employer brand be connected to the meaning of work?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of a something that you usually kind of develop. As Omer said, that's kind of that you need to. You have kind of a materials. You have presentations, strategies, ways of doing. But in the end, it's usually on the people. So basically, they need to basically be kind of the brand of the company, and then please themselves. From the company side, you can have kind of a processes, and you can develop I would say, how do you present yourself on the social media, on basically within the office, in the community. But still, most of that, even if you have the strategy, it's on the people. So basically, it's I can say it starts from the HR, but it's not always true. It's usually start because most of the employees, for example, in the BPO companies, are basically agents that are doing the basically the job. And as you said, we are doing that for some third party. so for the clients, and usually clients expect that these agents kind of feel as part of their company. So you have this mix of, I would say, mix of employee branding. So you have basically agents that are kind of need to represent the company that they work for, and they also actually work on the tasks, and then they work for Transcom, and they have that employee branding. It's easy when you have kind of a collision, so you have the same I would say same culture, same way of working. Then it's kind of easy. But in the end, I would say it's important how do you build in, basically how do you attract. So as Omer mentioned, it's important to find ways how to attract people. So basically that you can go out with the ads, and you can just go out and do the I would say potentially to employ all the, let's say, Bosnia and Herzegovina, but in the end it will be a very hard task for recruitment. So I think it's important how do you get out with the message in basically in the ads, in the promotion, so you have that kind of vibe and feeling when basically some potential employees see that, okay, this is what I like. But also it's important that you keep this throughout the process of I would say first job interview, onboarding, training, and later on in the work, and in basically in the like in the future. So because it's not only important to employ and attract people, it's also very important to keep them. So it's kind of, I would say, crucial that you have all the not only like HR that kind of like implement the strategy of employee branding. It's also important that you have the whole company working, from the management, from the team leaders, basically everybody, and workforce management. Basically, they're sometimes the most hated people in the company, because they give you kind of a crappy shifts. So it's kind of I said everything needs to be set up, and later on, when you have kind of people working for you 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, or even more, and we have employees working for 10 years, and you ask them, what keeps you here? So it's kind of I have safety, it's fine, I like it, it's great. But also then these people sometimes need to be ready for change management. So it's kind of also part of the employee branding, where you can basically, for example, one client can cancel the contract, and then you find yourself in the situation that you need to retrain, change the mindset of the people to some new client. Even they have kind of a skill set and they have the knowledge, you have to be flexible. So I think this is something that's kind of alive, and I said changed with the implementation of new technologies, AI. You can have kind of a different ways doing surveys. We do surveys for more than 10 years of employee satisfaction, but now it's kind of a totally different, because it changes. So kind of we had, especially during COVID, we had different results in the beginning, and now it changes from time to time. So I think when you say about that, how to change, how to basically keep this, how to keep people within the company, it's very, very kind of a challenging. So you need to combine different strategies, but also, I said, people are on the first place. So you have to keep the people constantly involved.
Thank you, Mr. Beneš. And yes, I fully agree. It has to be split in a couple of phases or stages, where employer branding has the effect on the newcomers or the people who are already in the company and expecting to grow through the culture and the capacity of work that they are doing. My next question for Mr. Semić will go in the direction of building a high-performing organizational culture. This key indicator or differentiator that underlies an organization culture performance is not chasing a particular company culture, but rather how to get your employees to demonstrate the culture your organization needs. By some researchers, to improve the company culture, organization choose to shift towards people-focused culture. From people-focused culture to process-focused playbook, where they increase the employee performance by 22%. I think that Deloitte is a great example of how to build a high-performing organization culture. And talking with Muhamed about this topic, I can understand that these are the strategies that are implemented in his team and across the Deloitte operations in the region. But I would like your insight in how are you building high-performing organization culture, or how you're developing those top performers.
Thanks. Well, Benjamin, as I said in intro, we really try to hire and to work with top performers from the very beginning. So it's more about the question how to further develop and how to keep those top performers in your firm, and knowing that basically those people can land any job that they want, and any job anywhere. For us, generally in Bosnia and Herzegovina, there's the story is kind of twofold. First one is to keep someone in your firm, so not to go in some other firm, and that's the area where we can do a lot, and where I believe we are really doing a lot. But generally we always have this second part of coin, and basically when people decide what to leave country for any other reason that is not related to the firm where they are well currently. So in that area, we as a firm, or kind of we as individual firms, all here cannot do much, but basically we as community should do a lot. I have to say, although COVID was a kind of very challenging period, our team stayed at one place. So basically we had a zero turnover rate in our team, and also managed to hire some additional people. When kind of we are speaking about building and maintaining high performance culture, I believe it's kind of very much connected with motivation of people. So basically you have to provide a clear path, a clear motivation for people that are in your firm, in your team, so that they know what's next coming there. Usually we kind of combine a short term and also long term conversations about a career path, about a career future. I believe that is very important. Quick, immediate feedback after some task or activity has been done. We call it here a snapshot or a check-in, where basically younger colleagues collect feedback throughout the year, and kind of and then on several months we basically sit and talk and kind of discuss what's next, what are goals of each individual employee, what are kind of goals and views of team, firm, and of course trying to find a perfect match. Our country leader Sabina always say one thing that I also tell to young folks is basically we believe that Deloitte is not a job, but Deloitte is a career. So people who really want to kind of build career and to want to excel in something that are they doing, we are doing our best to kind of nurture and facilitate with that. So yeah, besides everything what the firm are doing currently with their teams, I would just stress one thing, that perspective, a career path, career development, something that people can count on, will build their motivation, and will for sure ultimately also increase their performance.
Super. Thank you, Mr.
Benjamin, I know this may not be planned, but I am really passionate about building that high engaging team, and I really like and respect what Muhamed said here. But let me share a story, right? One of my job was actually to lead a very young organization, 900 people. 90% of them were as old as my kids. So I'm not an old man, but right, this is a very different generation, and I can't understand my kids, so I guess I can't understand them either. And one thing that I very quickly learned is young generation works to make money to pay for their expenses. Mobile phone, internet, all the stuff that we generally didn't have to worry about a long time ago, right? And of course, there's some money for food, drinks, and apartments. They are not joining a company to make career there. I can assure you that every single young kid has a dream about doing something else, right? And I think what we have to start thinking is, and you know, I don't want to go too far on this topic. What we have to start thinking as leaders, how do we build the trust with those folks, right? And get them to tell us what their dream is all about. I may have been naive, but I was, let's call it, stupid enough to actually tell them, I know you are not here because you love accounting, but let's have a drink and tell me what you like to do. And I think that's where people start building that connection to the company. Give them ability to express themselves who they are. One thing that I really admire is these additional skills that are far more important to us as a company. And I'll kind of give you one example of an employee that worked for me. She was our payroll manager, right? And I started a bit of a Six Sigma lean program and doing things that are more spontaneous than structured. And in one of those training, she truly kind of excelled, and I appointed her to be the inspirational speaker, be a leader. She was good at doing it, right? So in one of the town halls where my boss's boss happened to be, just by chance, she was speaking about her playing a role in continuous improvement. And of course, people go, continuous improvement, it's a job on top of the job on top of the job. And if you hear somebody saying that, please tell them to leave. They're going to pollute everything else. That's the COVID zero case that infects everybody. So she goes and say, guys, let me tell you something. I know I shouldn't be saying this. I can get fired. But I used to spend about 60 to 90 minutes of my time every day on Facebook checking what my friends are doing. I'm guilty of it. And then something happened in the payroll, so I start working overtime, start spending extra hours at work. And I heard Omer speaking, so I said, let's join him and learn about this continuous improvement thing so that I can see how to help myself. And she goes on to say, since I learned about how to fix my problems now by myself, I am no longer spending 90 minutes, 60 to 90 minutes on Facebook, but I do share on Facebook and on Yama internal page about work that I have done. I don't care anymore what my friends have done. I show them what I've done and how I feel great about it. And then she said, and by the way, to answer your question, is this job on top of my job? Last month, to make sure your payroll is processed correctly, I spent 40 hours overtime. This month, I spent 40 hours playing with my kids. And I think that to me is the state of the mind of an employee that we need to achieve. And of course, we can't work with everyone, but finding few of those who are truly inspirational, who you can inspire to work on your behalf, it will spread that I would say positive energy that will produce not only retention, but far more than what we expect in efficiency gains and productivity and so on and so on.
Thank you, Mr. Softić. And yes, this is quite connected with the next question that I prepared for you. And yes, I fully agree. There are some challenges in development phases of early comers or the talents who are coming in the companies. And in some stages, I think you will agree they are not fully aware or fully sure what their dream career is or what their goals should be accomplished. But with thought leadership and with a culture that can nurture their expectations and their skill set, I think that they can achieve these goals. In the meantime, they are considering all other options, and I can notice this through my recruitment experience. But as companies look at what will take to digitalize their operations, many leaders see that this is a significant skill gap active in the market. In fact, 64% managers don't think their employees are able to keep the pace with the future skills needed. Furthermore, 70% of employees say that they haven't even mastered the skills they need for their job today. So what we learned from COVID about skill gaps and what are the strategies to address them accordingly? What you have noticed so far in these past 2 years?
Well, it's an interesting question. I think if there's one thing that COVID has taught us, to me, that's that we really underestimating our capabilities and skill set that we already possess. Right? I shared my experience earlier on what I learned about people, but quite honestly, I was in Asia when COVID happened. I was running China at a very large shared service operation there, and while I was worrying about COVID and suddenly everybody working from home, what I noticed, it's not about not be able to go to the office and do the work. It's not be able to go to Starbucks and do your job, right? People were fully equipped, right? Especially, I don't know how much folks know about China, but everybody's on the phone, and I don't know how many of you do use Viber, right? Do you know that 95% of us Europeans type text messages? I invite you to download the version of Hrvatski and just say it to the thing and it writes the message for you. 100% voice recognition. I tested it this morning when my wife couldn't see what she was writing. So I set it to the phone and went out. So the skill set, what I'm trying to get is of the young generation is far beyond what we can comprehend. Unfortunately, somehow it's the old dude that's running the company. And he has a perception that everybody else has the same vision. Everybody else has the same skill set. So when COVID hit in Asia Pacific, it wasn't even felt, right? Especially in China, everybody was working from home. WeChat, you order your food, you buy everything, you pay. So it's only one app that does all that stuff. So technology has advanced. The younger generation has adopted this technology, moved on. I think there is a gap in maybe generational gap where we don't adopt quickly what's available out there and kind of try to navigate. But I do recognize there are certain skills that we need to be kind of refining and working on. I think digital is coming. I happened to read recently a book from a well-known Chinese businessman. I forgot the name, but it's very impressive, and it compares the Western digital state versus China. I think artificial intelligence is gone very far ahead. Natural voice recognition, I just shared with you. It's there, right? Why do we type? Open the Word document and just say it. I think almost any language. There is a little thing called I think iFly or something developed by Chinese. I was shocked when I was directly speaking in Bosnian and translating it to the dude in Mandarin. So technology has moved on. I think we just need to take it the way it is. New technology is designed to help us easier work, right? unfortunately, I think there are companies out there that are not responding very quickly, and we tend to kind of follow somebody else that's done things 10 years ago. I'll take you through an example. About 3 years ago, I was on a shared service summit where a global leader of ANZ Bank, this is one of the largest bank in Australia, she was so thrilled to share that her team has built 2,500 bots. 2,500 bots. And I asked her, so what is the bot doing? They said, well, it's taking a written document and it's translating it and loading it in the Access database or whatever. Okay. And I said, well, how do you then get the approvals? Oh, we print the document, we take it to the guy, and he signs it up, and we upload it again and put it in a workflow. Well, you know, I just learned recently about currency trading. So there's an app where I opened a bank account and did everything in a matter of 2 minutes without seeing anybody. It's a fully functional bank out there. So the technology has moved ahead, and I think we need to be, I would say, planning for the infrastructure that is a little bit beyond, you know, the immediate view, so to say. And I think as we get there, the new technology is more intuitive. I do believe we need to have a general skill set. If there's one thing that we need to be focusing on, is building curiosity, right? And making sure that people spend, you know, I know you're not going to agree at first when I say this, but you need to, as a leader, almost force your people to spend about 30 minutes watching YouTube. Not the jokes, Bosnian jokes out there, but watching the advancement in technology, watching the things. And I'll give you one example. Somebody talked to me about Alteryx and its ability to pull millions of records at the same time. It got me to the point where I actually spend weeks watching videos on used cases, how people apply Alteryx and a few other technologies together to change the business outcomes. As a result, my team created a project that was able to reduce 200 men to about 70. So that's 130 people reduction. And it is mostly that these folks who actually introduced it, they learned it themselves through YouTube's listening seminars, attending seminars and listening to other people. So I think there is a bit of a probably structured and non-structured education, right? I think we have to be encouraging people to be focused more on the not so structured and use opportunities as we interact in every day to learn, take notes of what is coming, what are the trends, and try to stay ahead of the game. I know it was a long answer, but I hope that resonates with people.
No worries, no worries. Thank you so much for your insight, and it's quite astonishing that we can fully agree with the fact that technology is even moving faster than the COVID was expecting, and we were quite ready technology-wise. But I think that Mr. Beneš already mentioned that he's expecting that people will go back to the office, and my question is, would you say that this will affect the growth trend that we are noticing in Southeast Europe region in terms of interest that is coming from international investors and the potential of this region in terms of providing business services? So are you expecting that remote will be here to stay in some hybrid level, or it will definitely go back as usual?
Yeah, well, it's kind of now it's kind of easy to say because we have flexibility with our clients. So everybody's, we have regulations, so you have to be work at home. So we have kind of two things. We have kind of our partners and we have our employees. When we ask our employees what they think, I believe in the beginning, everybody liked it. So basically, prior to the COVID, everybody thought about, it would be nice to work from home. I don't have to go to job, blah, 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 blah. Actually, when it actually happened, and we had we shifted in a week or two, majority of like 85% of our employees to home. When they started to work it was kind of I would say, shift. So it was change. It was a huge change for them. And then in like a matter of a few months, some people start hating it. So basically, they have their work environment. They have They don't have conditions, so they have kind of their spouse working at home as well, and it's kind of like fight all around. Some had kids, pets, so it's kind of not ideal. And when we asked basically people, I would say a few months ago, I think it was end of 2020. We noticed that basically people that want to stay at work decreased. So basically it's close to, I would say, 50-55% that would basically stay at home, but still I would say around 50% would like to back to office, at least on some interval level. So it could be that we'll shift to the hybrid model. And the other hand, we have partners that some kind of still would like to have brick and mortar setup. Because I think it's, as Omer mentioned, they have kind of decision makers that still see, brick and mortar people sitting there. We have control over them. So it's kind of, it's hard to get. We have clients that are fully said, oh, no problem, you can stay, work at home, even we didn't start it like that. So I'm seeing that we'll have this kind of a transition. So we will have kind of people that will stay, work at home. So as in the beginning said, we'll still have opportunity to basically keep that, I would say, momentum. When we started, as you said, BPO really increased, and it's, I think, visible in Transcom, but also in our competitors and IT sector. So basically, that's really kind of a boomed, especially because everything went on the kind of from the e-commerce, from the new apps, everything went digital. So basically, they needed people to have like developers, designers, and also they needed support. So it's kind of it's big increase, and I believe that we'll stay in that in this, I would say, momentum. Maybe it will slow down, but now it's kind of a way to have kind of vision and try to use the technology. So we have kind of utilize, I would say, Omer mentioned Manila and Philippines. We also have, I would say, 1/3 of Transcom is in Philippines. And when I have colleagues there, and we have operations there. So when you compare I would say they are kind of big. So to implement their business there, and somebody says, I want 1,000 employees tomorrow, well, no problem. If you ask that in the region, that we will say, okay, yeah, well, I'm not sure, but I think the difference is that we can still have, it's kind of like cultural difference. So you have these kind of we are quite part of skeptical, but we are also have a very good improvisational skills. So we are kind of we need to promote that in our people, because I think in Philippines that's kind of structured. So it's kind of like an army. So it's kind of their work, you say, and they're also changing. But I think we have this in kind of in the DNA, so kind of in the region. So we should use that, especially because you have the previous question that we talk about the AI and support and the new technologies that could basically decrease the need. So we can maybe do if somebody asks for 1,000 people, we can say we can do it with 50, and you need to just implement it smart. So I think this is an opportunity that we see. This kind of, as I said, we have a broader market opportunity to hire people basically anywhere, regardless to the office. And in combination with the technology, where you can basically utilize the skill set of the people that we have in a region, especially locally. We have a lot of smart people, but you just need to enable these. Need to enable and give them kind of a freedom so they express their skill set. I think it's also kind of a, as I think one of the Omer mentioned, we have kind of a people now, they don't want to work for a company. It's actually they work for a company just for kind of a salary. And those that they don't work in company, they are self-employed or freelancers. So it's kind of, we are now on the edge that companies like to recruit those freelancers. I know it's tough because they earn a lot more, so you cannot put them in the taxation or everything. But I think this is something that is also important for companies to start attract these people that think differently and they want to develop and think on a different structure. So I think it will be kind of especially with the work at home, it will be kind of we need to change. So it's kind of that's certain.
I fully agree, and those shifts are already noticeable in several industries. Not only is BPO, but BPO is definitely a leading one, having in mind the number of people working in similar level or already being prepared for this type of work or working from home environment. We have a couple more minutes to finish up. I had more questions, but unfortunately, this is not enough time to use all your capacity and insights that you already have in your past experience and active positions that you're working on. I will try to finish up with Mr. Semić, and this will go in direction of noticing this increased demand of expanding the BPO location across the Europe, and our location is becoming more and more interesting, which is really great result, having in mind who are we competing with. But the thing that I've noticed, and I would definitely like to get this perspective from Mr. Semić, is that many investors are now doing the research of next suitable location for setting up their operation. And human capital data becomes a leading indicator during this diligence phase. I think we received a question that goes in this direction from Ms. Begovic from Market Makers, and this kind of relates to the question, and I will just read it on, and you can respond on this one also. How does the information about future workforce pools impact your business decision today? So we can say that these two questions have some relations to this human capital data, especially in due diligence phase. And I would appreciate your perspective during the communication with investors. How does this impact on their final decision? Which type of location will be choose for their operations?
Thanks, Benjamin. Thanks, Selma. Well, yeah, you kind of partially already answered question. Yes, it is one of the key metrics and one of the key insights that investors are looking. Of course, it's not the only one, but I would say in this kind of era of really desperately searching for a skilled workforce is getting more and more important. We are I would say every day in touch with different investors, different business profiles that are searching for new opportunities, not only in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but I would say in the whole Western Balkans region, and there are some key metrics that they are looking for companies. Or for instance, everyone will invest their money only if you see that kind of value proposition of that company is something that differentiates it from competition, and that could of course bring revenue in next year. Generally, I would say a level of digital maturity and kind of use of technologies is also one of the metrics, and especially now during COVID, investors are looking to see kind of resilient businesses that have had a a good market attraction. A team, and I would say workforce employees is definitely one, or maybe one of 4 or one of 5 these key metrics. So if you, I don't know, every investor probably puts their own weight to this criteria, but for sure no one will invest its money if it cannot be kind of assured that behind the company name, behind the marketing, product, social media, everything, there's a competent team that can do complex and large projects. What the investors are often looking in this area is if there is in the team, if there is a similar experience to the one that currently team is doing. So basically, I don't know if it's kind of the discussion about what startups are there in team people that already did some startups in the past. If there are kind of very large projects, some company restructuring, transformation or things like that, investors are looking if there are people that already have experience there. And I believe now, especially in this time, everyone is well aware that basically no serious business activities can be done without serious and skilled workforce. So yeah. The thing about Bosnia and Herzegovina is, and generally, if you are speaking about these large city locations, that a number of workforce is still kind of in a small numbers. If we are really looking for a big company that need hundreds of skilled workforce, but I believe for let's say up to medium operations that investors want to establish in Bosnia and Herzegovina, they are definitely possible. And if we cluster our location with other Western Balkans locations, I believe that we can also target some even bigger investments.
I fully agree with that, Muhamed. And yes, thank you for mentioning that. And then ABS goals and ABSL visions are going in this direction, because we have to be fully aware of what is the capacity of the market and how big we are when we are mentioning Western Balkans, which is our main opportunity. I think Mr. Beneš will also agree with me, and Mr. Softić definitely, because meeting him in the early stages of ABSL, he said, oh, guys, you are really passionate. I appreciate it with you, but you have to be aware where you sit at and how to kind of co-locate with the other locations, so we can get many interest of big companies, big operations which are already coming to Bosnia. Unfortunately, we used all of our time. I'm so thankful for every one of you, and even touching to the questions, to the ones that I didn't manage to ask you, especially in the future of work, which will be one of our topics on the ABSL annual conference. But thank you once again for the time. Thank you for your insights, and thank you for sharing your knowledge. And thank you for all participants for joining us in this event. The next one will be after the summer vacation. We are planning to have an IT-oriented panels, which will be held with our strategic partners of Ministry of Programming. While in the meantime, you can expect that our capacities are joined towards working on a new ABSL annual report. I would appreciate your help, your insight, your involvement in this such important document that is produced on the local market. And I'm looking forward to having you in the report and presenting your knowledge, your experience, and your thoughts on the future of work. Adi, back to you.
Thank you very much to all of our participants, and especially our guest speakers today in the name of the ABSL Bosnia and Herzegovina, soon to be Western Balkans crew. We are truly proud because, as we mentioned, it's the 30th of June. The holiday season has almost started, that you spare your time and shared actually very, very useful data and food for thought. As Benjamin mentioned, we are now focusing on the production of our second annual report, and any help of yours would be highly appreciated, as we did in the last edition. I would especially like to thank also to our guests who joined from all around Europe today to listen to our panel and get our market to know better. So until the next time, let's have a nice summer, and we are looking forward to your feedbacks and collaboration on our report. Thank you again.
Thank you all. Goodbye.
Thank you from my side as well.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Holidays.